All right, good evening. Settle in. Tonight, we're not talking about the winners. No, tonight we're going to peel back that polished veneer of history and really look at the messy, ink-stained truth that's always lurking in the margins. You see, we're here to study the architecture of failure. And our story, well, like all truly great tales of folly, it starts in a place just like this. You know the type. A kingdom steeped in eternal twilight, where that line between ambition and madness gets, let's say, a little blurry.
Right at the heart of this kingdom, kind of like a worm in an apple, there's this simple, corrosive truth. It's a lesson that every single monarch, every tyrant, every would-be god eventually learns, usually the hard way, and it's this. Absolute control? It's just an illusion. An illusion, and one that's so easily shattered by forces that look at all our human tragedy and just see a cosmic comedy. We're talking about forces that don't play by your rules. Why would they? They're the ones who wrote the messy, contradictory source code for the whole game. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this evening's little intellectual autopsy. First, we'll look at the fundamental flaw in all systems of power. Then, we'll meet the folks who bring it all crashing down. After that, a few case studies. We'll dissect their methods and wrap up with a final lesson. Simple enough.
All right, section 1. Let's start with the premise. This is the big one, right? The foundational, eternally doomed struggle between our very human desire for order and the universe's, let's call it a penchant for the irrational.
So think of it like this. On one side of the ring, you've got the gilded cage. This is humanity's whole project, right? Logic, law, rigid authority built on these thrones of bone. It's all about that desperate search for certainty. But on the other side, that's the spilling ink. This is pure chaos, laughter, and unpredictable whims. This is the absolute absurd, embodied by characters like the Sapphire Jester.
And you have to understand this. Any attempt to impose the rules of that gilded cage onto the spilling ink it's completely futile. It's like signing a contract with reality that's written in disappearing ink. The second you try to enforce the terms, poof, it's gone.
So, if this is all some big cosmic joke, who are the ones telling it? Who are the agents actually executing it? Well, let's meet them. Let's meet the architects of chaos.
Now, in these parables we're looking at, they show up as three siblings, the wit, the hunger, and the small. But here's the thing. Don't just mistake them for your average monsters. They're much more interesting than that. They actually represent a psychological descent. Think of it like Freud's model. The wit, that's the id, pure, raw desire. The hunger, that's the ego, the clever talker, the rationalizer. And the small, well, that's the superego, the crushing internal judge. Basically, they're temptation itself, given form.
And their real power, it isn't just malice or evil. No, their weapon is way more subversive. It's their simple, total refusal to take your world seriously. They don't have to fight you head-on. They just dismantle your entire reality by treating it like a stage for their own absolutely absurd play.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in practice? Let's look at a few, let's call them historical case studies. This is required reading, by the way, for any of you aspiring tyrants out there.
So we're going to look at three classic archetypes of tragic ambition. You've got a weaver who tried to map infinity, a monarch who tried to weaponize nothingness, and a librarian who thought he could catalog chaos. And as you can probably guess, in every case, their ambition just completely outpaced their intellect. Let's focus on the librarian for a minute. Here's a guy who genuinely believed he could contain these sovereigns of absurdity just by classifying them using these rhymes that apparently tasted of cold iron and ash. He was trying to slap intellectual order onto something that is fundamentally, by its very nature, disorderly. A classic and completely fatal error.
So the agents of chaos, they don't storm his library with a big roar. No, it's more like a cold draft under a locked door. And they just start stripping the meaning from his life's work. It's in that quiet, terrible destruction that the librarian has this absolutely chilling realization. He was never an observer of chaos. He was just an unwitting performer on its stage.
And that's the ultimate humiliation, isn't it? It's not just that he lost, it's that he became completely irrelevant. All his knowledge, his precious order, his entire identity. It was all just reduced to a meaningless object in a show that has no finale.
He became nothing more than a prop in an endless mocking play. Okay, so now let's get a bit more analytical. Let's look at the philosophical tools that these architects of chaos are actually using. What's the logic behind their completely illogical methods? First up, the jagged spire. Now, in the stories, it's a literal prison for the three siblings, but symbolically, it's so much more. It represents any rigid system, a government, a religion, even a personal philosophy that's built to contain forces it can't possibly understand. And here's the secret. It's designed to be brittle. It's meant to crack. Then you have the glass threads, the ones the weaver used. These symbolize our own feeble attempts to apply our finite human reason to a universe that is infinite and absurd. We love to tell ourselves our logic is level and safe, but honestly, it's as fragile as glass. It shatters at the very first touch of real chaos. And then there's their ultimate weapon, the logic of zero. This is a bleak one. It's the philosophical assertion that everything we do, all human striving, when you tally it up in the final ledger, it all amounts to nothing, zero. It dismisses our greatest achievements as just frantic delirium. It's the tool that rips everything away and reveals the hollowness at the center of our carefully curated lives. And so, here we are. We've arrived at the end of our lecture, the final lesson, stripped of all comfort, all illusion. So, where does that leave us? Think about it. Every single one of our case studies, the monarch, the weaver, the librarian, they were all seeking a kind of forbidden knowledge. They wanted to understand and control the fundamental forces of the universe. So what's the price for that kind of ambition? What does it cost you? Well, the price is something our text calls a Faustian inversion. It's like a twisted deal with the devil. But here, enlightenment isn't some glorious ascent into the light. Oh no. It's a brutal transaction where you trade that comforting salve of illusion for the cold, hard, inescapable truth of your own insignificance. And so, I'll leave you with this thought. The Sapphire Jester, this agent of chaos, his main job is to hold up a terrifying mirror to expose all the unearned values and hollow fears that we build our lives on. So the final mocking question tonight, it isn't about some mythical monarch in a story. It's about you. What happens when the Jester holds a mirror up to your kingdom? Class dismissed.